over to the UK in 2005. So I thought tonight I would just share a little bit about the time that I've had here since then and some of the little things that I've learned along the way. So yeah, I thought I would just share a little bit of how it is that I came to stay here permanently. And I thought I'll speak about some of the interesting things you learn when you come to another country, whether the plan is for 1 year or indefinitely. There's always a few interesting things that you learn about the place and yourself when you do a relocation. So yeah, all right. So just to basically give a brief rundown on my first year of coming to London. As I mentioned, the idea was literally just to get a little bit of work experience and to have the opportunity to see a bit of Europe. Actually, when I arrived in 2005, I did very little research. I was not one of those young ones who figured out what the cost of living is. I knew nothing about taxes or basically just living away from home. I knew nothing. So I came here thinking everything's going to be super easy. And oh boy, was I wrong. So I arrived here, and for anybody who's contemplating maybe a move to another country, I'll tell you some of the funny things that you learn within your first month. If you've lived with friends or with your family, your mum and your dad, when you move to that foreign country and you know nobody, you cannot afford your own place. So you end up living with strangers. So the very first thing I learned week number 1 is that I'm going to flat share. And that brought some very interesting housemates. It's brought some interesting pets, and learning how to live with people who maybe are not very tidy, or who are very noisy, or who are slightly weird or scary in some other way. So if you haven't flat shared before, I would definitely recommend it. But maybe just for a while. The other thing that you learn when you come to London is that it's not just the language barrier that you need to get used to, but obviously all the cultural quirks. I come from South Africa. People are very chatty. We make eye contact with everyone and we say hello to everyone. I think it's maybe like that also in the Latin American countries. People smile. When you move to London, people don't really do that. Everybody looks down. Everybody has their earphones in. We don't make eye contact. We don't say hello. And really only if there's an emergency would somebody talk to you. And we don't consider that to be rude at all. It's just how people are. Everyone just minds their own business. So as a newbie in a foreign country, you often find that a little bit strange. People really don't come across as very warm and friendly. It is just a little bit of the culture. Everybody keeps to themselves. But once you kind of get into an environment like an office, or you're in a pub, they love the pub culture here. It does get a little bit easier and people are a little bit friendlier once you've actually had an introduction of sorts. But on the streets with strangers, it is a little bit intimidating because it's not like it is back home in our countries, in other lands. So I had to get used to that, and I had to get used to not smiling at everyone and not saying hi because they wouldn't say hi back. The third very interesting thing that I hadn't prepared myself when moving here is, of course, not just is it challenging to find a job, but it is also very challenging to get used to all the tax and legal things that you need to implement. Sometimes you think it's easy to open a bank account in another country, or so that your salary can be paid in there, or you think it's just they sort it out, and you don't really realize all the things that you need to set up, whether it be to contribute to the national contribution system. So many people seek advice maybe from a solicitor or one of these companies that do immigration, immigration routes and help with the technical visas to help new ones come over. I didn't know any of those things, so I just kind of bumped my head along the way. But it all worked out and all my taxes have been paid ever since. The only other unusual event that I had to deal with in that first year, in terms of challenging things you learn as a new person in a country, is that, of course, bad things can happen anywhere we live. Ali will know this from our years of being friends. In my first year of coming to England, there was a big terrorist attack. And this was the London bombings. So my very first job that I got in that first few weeks, one of the little office friends and colleagues I met actually died in that terrorist attack. And that really skewed my desire to continue living in London. So I came over thinking, I'm going to have a really nice time. I'm going to just get to travel. But actually, very quickly, the environment within the London area changed overnight as security measures got bumped up. So something quite unexpected happened, which really made me actually really second guess my decision for coming to London. So within about 3 months, which was when the attack occurred, I was very much happy to pack my bags and move back to South Africa. Now, as it happens, I didn't. I did end up staying. And the reason why I ended up staying was because through the employer that I stumbled upon, I was offered an immigration route. So it was really a bit of an accidental occurrence for me to stay in London for more than a year. Ali wanted me to briefly mention how that immigration route was, because a lot of young ones consider maybe spending time in Europe, but we struggle with, the idea of how to get sponsored. The immigration route has really changed from 15 years ago when I started that journey. They've had Brexit, which has really changed the views of immigration. It's made it a lot harder for people with European background passports to come in now. Everybody does actually need to, have a visa if they want to stay and work here. As I mentioned to Ali, I have no idea actually how I was sponsored and got the work permit, because I didn't have a university degree. And so one of the things that we mentioned to a lot of people when they ask, how is it that somebody like I did it? The very first thing that I have to say is that for anybody who's trying to do it these days, a university degree is one of the basic requirements that they normally expect somebody to have. The other route is obviously through entrepreneurship. If somebody has their own business and they've got a lot of capital to bring into the UK, then obviously money talks, as they say. So that makes it much more feasible. The third option is a little bit like myself, which is if you are offered a job contract by a UK employer and they are willing to take that responsibility for you and basically pay and bring you over. And generally the way they do that is they say you will have a skill that they require, which they are not able to fill here in the London job market. Now that is actually the route that I came in. And that's why everybody who knows me laughs, because they kind of go, Tanya, you don't have a degree, you're not good at math, you just about, past high school education. How is it that you could persuade people that in a city of 7 million people, someone can't do your job? And I have no idea how to answer that question because I think anyone can do my job. You might wonder, what is the job that I ended up doing when I moved here to London? So, as I mentioned, early 20-something-year-old, I worked in travel and tourism in South Africa because that's what we do. It's a sunny country and, everything is about outdoors living. So when I came to London, I had no skills. Nobody was interested in whales or dolphins or the sardine run or anything that we talk about in South Africa. And in London, all they wanted to talk about was pensions, investments, tax, all those boring things that I know nothing about. So there was a couple of years of studying after work, and I now work within the financial services industry where I help people with their very boring tax planning, pensions, retirement planning, and something that they do in the UK. I don't know if they do that in Brazil and in some of the other countries. People often here in the UK, they do what they call life planning. So one of the things that we do, or that I do in my role, is that we will look at how much money a person has, and then with some computer models, we plot how long their money will last and how much they can spend on fancy holidays and things like that. So that's a little bit of the day job that I do now. And, with bearing in mind the challenges that we've had, whether it be the language barrier, the cultural barrier, getting used to the rules and regulations, getting lost a lot. Maybe Ali remembers that as well. You're always lost when you're in a foreign city. All those things does get a little bit easier in time. So even though I would say the first year is definitely the hardest, and you probably want to pack your bags and move home maybe after 3 months like I did, it does get better. So one of the things that made London my home after that initial bumpy first year was the people that I met. Now, as I mentioned, it is actually very hard to make friends in London because people are they all mind their own business. But I was very lucky to meet like-minded individuals, people like Ali and a few others. So over, I'd say, a 5-year period, I made some very good friends, which became a little bit like family. And that made that transition much easier because I think no matter who we are, whether we are a woman or a man, we all have a need for friendship and family and loneliness that can affect anybody. And that is definitely one of the big hurdles that face a new person, no matter their age, when they move to another country. The loneliness factor can sometimes be much harder than the financial and economic adjustments, because as a foreigner, perhaps you're not earning the highest salary for quite some time. You can almost view it as a little bit of discrimination. They hear the accent or they see a university that's not from England. So those are all little tips that maybe they say, oh, I will pay you a little bit less. So although those things are frustrating, you kind of, build your way up and you negotiate and you fight maybe for better employment treatment as people, learn to trust your qualifications and what you bring to the employment table as a foreigner. And that is always a very good thing because all the people that I work with, they always say they love working with the foreign colleagues because of the work ethic, because of the enthusiasm, because of them wanting to, achieve and reach goals. So they love hiring foreigners, but there is definitely a little bit of a challenge as you overcome those the biases that is often so common when you come with an accent, and maybe just a slightly different perspective. So it takes a little bit of time to win them over. But with all of that being said and done, it's something that I did. And even though it's been a little bit challenging along the way, it's brought many interesting benefits. That being that I've been able to, settle and build a career. I've been able to support family back home in South Africa. I've been able to do some traveling and see the world. And I've also been able to pick up some interesting hobbies along the way, because our secular work is not the be all and end all of our lives. We always talk about that work-life balance, and that is very important no matter where we live. So things like maybe volunteer work for me, which is quite important, but also enjoying things like scuba diving, nature, visiting friends in other parts of the world. All those things have also been nice little add-ons that I've enjoyed in my 15 years in London. So yeah, maybe not the most, I don't know, maybe not the most technical description of somebody who's just kind of stumbled along and ended up in London. Like I mentioned, whether it be my no planning, thinking everything's going to be fine. I'm just coming over for a year, and then 15 years later, I'm still here. It's all been good. It's been enjoyable. And when people say, should they do it? Should they give it a go? I always say, getting to live and work and pick up that experience of making friends in another land can be very, very rewarding. I think for ones who have that little bit of adventure in them, I think for ones where obviously health, family, and other circumstances allow it, it is definitely something that I would recommend, just because of the roundedness that living in a country with so many different nationalities can provide. In South Africa, although we are a country with 11 official languages, we do not have many, many foreigners. In London, I was introduced to Brazilians, Chinese, Japanese, Venezuelans, obviously everybody from Europe and all those language groups. Something that I never would have experienced in South Africa, which is making friends with such diverse thoughts and beautiful qualities that they bring to the table, is maybe one of the big gems that I found here. And so I think from that perspective, it is something that I would recommend if there is a desire to do so. But of course, our happiness doesn't depend on where we live. It's what we think, it's what we do with our thoughts and our energies. And so I think no matter where we live, we can make a beautiful success of things. But for anybody who wants to get that a little bit of experience, before they maybe get serious with things like mortgages and other more family-oriented responsibilities like kids, it's maybe a really nice and exciting opportunity for somebody maybe in their 20s or 30s. Although I say that, I do have a few friends who've done the immigration journey in their 40s as well. It's still hard, doesn't get easier. Whether you're 23 or 43, the immigration journey is tricky. It's a roller coaster. Yeah, that is a little bit about my story and some of the little things that I experienced along the way. If there's any questions, you can let me know. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Dan. That was awesome. Oh, thank you. That's so interesting. You're talking about like the immigration of 40, and I'm like,
Yeah,
The older you are, the harder it is, I think, because
it
you feel it
does.
more. When I first arrived, I didn't mind things that I know for 100% sure I would mind now. Like I wouldn't mind walking, I wouldn't mind being cold. like the misery of
Oh,
something.
I didn't even talk about the weather. Yeah, the weather's awful here in Europe. Yeah. No, you complain a lot about the weather if you live in a country like London.
Yeah.
Ali, my brother, he immigrated to Canada this year, and that is at the age of 43. He's turning 44. And guys, I have a cousin who's also friends with Ali, and she immigrated to England when she was 21. Her immigration journey was very similar to mine. She came on what we call a holiday visa, which is for 1 year that allows you to work. She got a job at the very same company I got a job at. And she got sponsored in the immigration route by the very same employer. So they did it for her, they did it for me. 10 years of living in the UK, she could not deal with the weather anymore. She could not, she was tired of all the rain and all of that jazz. And then she decided to immigrate to Australia, and she did it a second time. Her second immigration journey actually only took, I think, 5 years. It's quicker to become a citizen in Australia. I do not know how she did it. Then it took her 7 years to do it in England. Same for me. But it took her 5 years to do it in Australia. But she said that's the last one. She's staying put. She's not doing it again.
Oh man, it's hard. Did you have to do the test? Did you do your test?
Yeah. So one of the things after you do the 5 years, it's generally speaking 5 years in order to then be able to qualify for the passport. And they will do a little test with you have to prove that you can speak English, even though you've lived in the country for several years and you speak English every day. So yeah, did have to do that.
But even because I know that in South Africa, you always have English as a second language, right?
We do.
Even though if you speak in English, you had to take the test.
Even with that, yeah. So it's really interesting. They just made the decision because I am from South Africa, that I had to, pay the X amount of money and do the test. I'm personally, as a child, I grew up in what we call the Afrikaans language. And so you get to learn English, as a second language in school. You never speak it, so you feel very awkward and stressed every time somebody comes along and they are English and you have to speak English. So as a child, I actually never spoke English, although I could understand it because you get it on TV, Beverly Hills, all these programs from forever ago. And so, yeah, you can follow along, but you don't really speak it. And it was only when I finished high school at the age of about 18 that I got my very first job. And then they said, oh, we want you to speak, you're then required to speak English because you will get people from English backgrounds very often, so that it kind of picks up, and then you just have to get over the shyness of speaking with a strong accent, which was the thing that always held me back. You hear native English speakers speak a certain way, and then you open your mouth and then you say the same words, but with this really funny accent, and that kind of makes you feel embarrassed very quickly. So I had to kind of just get over that. But after about 3 years, I was a lot more comfortable speaking English because I did it within the employment space. But then when I moved over to England and I thought I can speak English pretty well, I got my first job at week 2. They said, "Are we going to put you on the phones and you're just going to be a stand-in receptionist?" And you pick up the phone and you go, "Good morning, City Asset Management. This is Tanya. How can I help you?" And then they say who they are and they ask for someone. and I could not understand a single thing they said. Sometimes the accents, because you have these Liverpudlian accents, and then you have the accent from Manchester, and then you have this weird Blackpool accent, and people would speak, and I would just be like, I'm sorry, can you say your name again? And then they'd say it again. I'm so sorry, could you say that again? And then I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I know this is the third time I'm asking, but could you just spell your name? Because I cannot, it's like your ear has to adjust.
Yeah.
And your ear has to get used to the different nuances and how they speak. And I probably had that problem for about 6 months, where I just constantly had to say, I'm so sorry, what's that? But yeah, that got better.
Once a woman gave me 10 pounds because I was just like that, you know, she was trying to make small talk with me and I wouldn't understand anything that she said. And I would always go like, pardon, can you repeat that, please? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then at a certain point, I was just, you know, just nodding yes or no for what I don't know. And
Yeah.
she took off the bus, she gave me 10 pounds and she wouldn't get it back, you know, and just, okay, so I'm going to have like 2 pints with this 10 pounds.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the pub now. Yeah. No, I mean, nobody's ever given me 10 pounds, but yeah, I've definitely had that issue with the accents. How long were you in London for, Lazy?
6 months only the first time, and the second time for almost, but the first time I had just finished university and I went backpacking around Europe with a few friends, and you know, London was my last destination, and then I stayed for almost 6 months, and then I came back to Brazil, and in 16 I went back because a friend of mine had just arrived from Germany. I stayed in Germany as well. I tried my visa there, but there is the things for Brazilians. We cannot apply for visas within the union, you know, so we needed to be outside to apply for any visa or an exchange of visa. I didn't know that, you know, so I was just having fun, and a friend invited me to stay and said, yeah, why not? So she got me a job at a hotel as a maid. I tried, but it was denied. But one thing about the German people is that they do not deny your right, you know, although they know that it doesn't have any future. So they were okay with me asking for a work visa, and then I could stay, you know, as much as I wanted. They asked me, okay, is your life threatened if you go back to Brazil? And I said, unfortunately, no. So, well, how much longer do you want to stay here, you know, in order to sort of things out and go back to Brazil? And said 10 days would be okay for me. And said, yeah, you could stay longer if you think that it's going to take time. I said, no, it's okay. If I can't stay, I just won't go back.
Yeah, I think our rules are probably quite similar for South Africa, because when I was in England, because the offer to be sponsored for immigration was so accidental, I didn't know how it would operate as well. And I remember when I did it, the very first application the employer did, it got rejected. And they just went, this person does not have university degree qualifications. No. They then resubmitted the application. And then they said why they wanted me and why they couldn't fill the position. Randomly, that one, they say, okay, this person, we can approve their application. However, they have to leave the country, fly to South Africa, take all the paperwork to the embassy and in the home country, and do all of the paperwork there. And I remember when they said this to me, I was like, hang on, is this just a very interesting way to kick me out of the country? Get me on the plane, get me back into South Africa, and then they go, haha, denied. And so I remember the whole time when I was going to South Africa, I was thinking, is this what they make you do? Do they say you have to physically leave and go do it in another country and then come back. In my case, it went smoothly. You know, there was no issues, but I do remember as well having to pack my bags, go back to South Africa, do the thing there, and then 2 weeks later fly back.
Oh,
So,
it worked.
yeah.
So we have a friend here, Marcus. He recently, no, last year he immigrated to Canada, right, Marcus? How was that journey? If you could share as well.
Hey, I'm in cafe today in downtown.
Nice.
Sorry. Yeah, sometimes I just enter to say hi. How are you doing? Everyone good here?
Hi.
Hello.
Nice. Yeah, it's a different coffee, Starbucks coffee. Just have it here, Toronto and New York. It's a reserve coffee. So good beans. And the beans from South America, especially from Brazil. So I like the coffee from here because it's better than other coffee here. The coffee in Canada is the same way.
Can I
from the
just
USA.
interrupt to
So
admire your
bad.
English? Can I just like say,
Yeah.
what is this Canadian accent I detect? Oh my God. Who are you?
Impossible. I'm great. Now I lose my knowledge drive test, but that's okay.
You what?
Canada, it's normal.
You what? Sorry, I didn't get that. What happened?
Well, Canadians is very punctual people, so I arrived just 5 minutes later and I cannot do my test. Is that?
Oh, shame. The driving one.
Yeah, it's because I have a driving license from Brazil, but because I live here now, I cannot
no, the
drive
insurance
any
is too
cars.
high.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
After 3 months living here, you cannot use your driving license. So I need
Yeah.
to change my driving license, but I need to do the all tests again. The
Yeah,
knowledge
yeah, I
test,
had
the
to do that.
drive test.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Did you do that, Tan? Did you have an English license?
I have to do it. I haven't done it yet.
Wow, after
I know. The thing is, here in London,
years.
But you broke the rules.
you
No.
just kind of don't need it. We have such big taxes now for car ownership. They tax you based on the car that you have, you know, how eco-friendly it is, and not everyone can afford a Prius or a hybrid. Then there is a lot of congestion rules for parking and driving. They have this thing, which is basically the entire London. The moment you go into the London zones, it's like it costs an absolute fortune, and then you can't park anywhere.
How much is congestion charge nowadays?
They call it the ULIS charge, and because I don't have a car,
Don't
I
know.
don't know.
No, I don't know. I can't remember how much it was.
All I know is you can't find a parking spot. You constantly get my friends who have cars, they're constantly getting fines.
Oh yeah.
These men with their black hats, they walk up and down the road trying to meet their quota of I will fine you.
Vultures.
It's very, yeah. You know what? I just think Uber or take the bus or the train. And when you do those things, you can have a little drink or you can have a glass of wine. And that makes it a tiny bit.
It's the same way here. It's the same. It's the same. You can drink and drive. It's normal here. But for example, I remember some prices in Brazil to get the driving license. I just pay $15 here. 15 Canadian dollars. Yeah.
Wow.
Just that.
Man.
Remember 10 years ago, I paid for my driving license like 2,000 reais.
Yeah. Something
I don't have any idea how much is now, but it's that.
Yeah.
Just
So
$15.
You needed to renew. How often do you need to renew a driver's license there, Marcus and Tanya? Well, you don't have, but you, I don't know, maybe you know, Tanya.
Yeah,
I think here.
in my case, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, I don't think there's a limit here.
now there is, because I think my one's about to expire. I think it's 10.
10 years.
Okay. All right, maybe 10.
Yeah,
I'll check.
it's 16 years here. But here in Canada, 18 years. But have some levels you need to do before driving highways or travel with cars. But because of that, because I have a driving license from Brazil, I can jump these steps and I start to drive in level 10. So I'm like the last level driver. So it's great because I cannot understand why I need to start in little steps again with a person in my side to teach me again. So here you cannot do that. And another curious about here, in especially driving license, is that I don't know in English the name of that, but the baliza here, you can park a truck. It's so huge. Like your car, it's easy.
The gap to park, you mean?
Yeah, thank you. The gap. Yeah, thank you.
No, but you were trying to say how we call baliza, right?
The maneuver to park.
Don't
I guess.
exist. Yeah.
Is that the one that you go like that?
Reverse
Yes.
parking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 10 years. My one expired 2 years ago. So I like the having because it's like ID. In England, we don't have ID. How do you have to take a passport stamp whenever you need to show your ID?
I mean, the only time that's ever happened, and it hasn't happened recently, is if you try and buy a bottle of wine. You know, it was like they have this rule, and it doesn't happen anymore because I don't look like I'm 25 anymore. But back in the day, when I looked a little bit younger, you would always need to have something on you to prove your age. And I had a South African driver's license with me because, like Alessandra says, you don't want to walk around with your passport all day long. But I remember going into a well-known food shop here called Waitrose, being ID'd, saying, "Ma'am, please may we see your driver's license for me to sell you the wine." I'm not an alcoholic, by the way. And then I showed them the South African one, and they said no. Yeah, I could not believe it. They were just like, no, we only accept UK. We only accept UK ID. I was like, whether it's a UK ID or a South African ID, it doesn't change my age.
Exactly.
But yeah, they would not sell me the wine.
Man, I never had this problem. Never ever.
I remember once I had this problem situation. I was with Wagner and he was buying wine and I was with him. They asked him for the ID. He didn't have it. So I was like, he have mine. And she was like, no, you can't buy alcohol for a minor. It's like, he's not a minor.
Yeah, they're very funny with stuff like that. I don't know. They haven't been like that since the pandemic, but before the pandemic, it would just drive you absolutely crazy. You'd be like, what? But yeah, no, I'd love a license, but I would have to do all the tests, and I just don't know if I would pass because, yeah, if you know me in real life, I don't know. Would they give me a license? Because I'm from South Africa, and you know how it is in Africa. I mean, there's lots of little handshakes. I remember when I got my license, my driver's license in that country, I remember immediately after I got my license, my dad went to the man and they had a little chat. And then the next day, my mum was doing a lot of baking and there was a lot of cakes being given to that man. And I was like, did you pay for my license with cake? And then they just smiled. So I'm not 100% sure if I should have a South African license, is basically what I'm saying.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, no, thank you, Ton. You said so many interesting things like the finances and the little robot thing. Do you think this is like, because I was just listening to it today, how the robots are taking over the jobs. Your fault, Mark, coming up with these apps. So do you think this is something that is going to be in jeopardize, the finance industry, or not really?
No, I mean, you have this thing called robo advice, which is something they've spoken about actually for a few years, because, you know, it's all the math, the algorithms that can do certain aspects of work. And we see that in other industries as well. I don't think it will make us obsolete any day soon. I'm not overly worried about my particular role or job function going out of the window anytime soon. But they do use technology a lot more. And you see it in terms of how some companies do portfolios. You look at how they do it. Again, they do all these scenarios and they give them funny names where they run these calculations hundreds of times or thousands of times to look at the probability of certain outcomes being achieved in terms of, you know, investment returns. So they have a purpose. They do the math very well. The algorithms and these software tools at our disposal, but it hasn't removed the human element of it, which is still quite a personal element for giving people financial advice. Because when people come to you and they say, I have some money, I want to give some money to my children, you know, you can't really have those conversations with a robot talking about things like divorce and breakups and how money can be lost through things like that. Helping children get on the property ladder when it's very expensive and parents want to give money, stuff like that. I don't think that will be replaced by the robo advice point.
That's true. It's so complex.
Let me ask you, a random question. Now that we have Marcos in Canada, which is part of the Commonwealth, is still, right? So I remember the first time, I remember the first time, I don't know, the last time, I didn't pay attention to that, but in the first time, 2006, I was flat. I was sleeping in a couch, you know, for the whole 6 months. And at that house, there was a TV, a color TV. And I remember that the girl said that she paid like a specific tax to the government because she had the TV. And if she had a black and white TV, it would be cheaper. Does it still apply nowadays?
So here in England, so we don't have black and white TVs anymore. They don't exist. They did, but you have this thing called a TV license, and that is basically a tax. And that amount it's about 200 and it's like £220 a year.
Okay.
And you pay this every year in order to be legally allowed to watch TV.
Imagine so.
Yes. So there's a lot of people, they don't want to pay the TV license tax. And so obviously we have a lot of streaming subscription services now. People have things like Amazon Prime or sometimes Netflix. And people sometimes say, I do not watch what you call normal TV. So they're the channel one, what we call BBC One, BBC Two. So people will say, oh, I never watch the BBC, or I never watch ITV, I only watch Netflix. And so you have a group of people in that category who will say that, and they will not pay their license. However, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. And I don't want to mess with the police or the gov, especially because I work in finance. So I just paid the license. Also, if you wanted to buy a television, if you wanted to go to Amazon or what we call a John Lewis or a big department store, and you want to go buy that 50-inch TV or whatever, in order for them to give you the TV, you have to have evidence that you have a TV license. And I don't know how people get around that. I don't know how people get around that if you're saying I don't watch live TV and I just watch recorded things.
They used to
Oh.
visit you in your house. They do like a surprise visit. They still do it.
They still have that. You have again
Like the TV license police.
you have this random person
Is it
that
true?
might
It
knock on the
happens.
door, and
Yeah.
then they will literally go, "Hi, this is my credential. I'm like a man in black," and they will literally go, "Do you have a TV?" And if you do, and then they kind of look in, and then they go, "Oh, may we see your TV license?"
They fine you if you don't have one. Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's
Yeah.
hated this country. I never will go to the England now.
You can visit. You don't need to pay for the license if you
But
visit.
you are part of the Commonwealth now. Do you have
I'm
this?
free here. I'm free here. I can buy everything and don't need to pay for nothing. It's like the USA. The people need to buy more things every single day here because it's the way the capitalism here. So no matter if I have 2, 3, 4 TV in my home, I can use at all. And the channels are free too. And if you want, I don't know, sport channels or otherwise, you just pay $10 for that. So,
Wow.
and I'm a developer. I don't pay for nothing, so
Yeah.
I can just use my software here because I'm free. So, okay, never you go to the England. Okay.
No, go to England. Just don't watch TV.
It's just visit people who have TVs and you're
I'm so
fine.
sad because of that. Wow, I'm thinking about the gamers right now. Oh my
Imagine.
gosh, I'm
Yeah.
a nerd guy. No, it's impossible in English to me. Never.
But
Yeah.
it goes to BBC. The BBC is a stated TV station, so the money they collect from the TV
see,
license
see,
goes to BBC
Into the
for
British
a quality program. That's why you get such a great
Hey,
quality.
did they not give us Downton Abbey?
But
Wasn't the IT TV? Was it
Oh, I have
ITV?
no idea.
Wasn't it
Yeah.
ITV?
Yeah, but ITV. But no, I thought it was BBC.
Oh, I don't know now. Could have
I'm
been.
terrible, but yeah.
We have it on
We
Netflix.
do.
no way,
We have,
girls.
we have lots of
Mm.
small, quirky little things.
Ellie, how do you love this country? How? No,
And the bake. What's that called? The program
Great
of the bake.
British Bake Off.
Bake Off. The Bake Off. Like right there, £200 worth.
What
it.
is this?
The Great Bake Off. Oh my God, it's the best program ever in TV. It's like a competition for baking cakes.
Ah, okay.
So it's the Bake Off. I loved Bake Off. It was so good. But then Mary
No
came
way.
out with the old lady Mary. She left,
Yeah.
and I don't think it
It
got
all
good after that.
changed. We've got
Yeah.
Noel Fielding now and somebody else. Yeah.
No
I
way.
know England. It's a funny little island, I tell you. But yeah,
Marx does not. approve.
someone's got to live here.
No, I'm so
Someone's
sad
gotta
because
pay
of
the
that. No
tax.
way. No way.
Nobody's
I
on
told Max
Netflix.
about the TV license. He said no. He's
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
coming.
you stumbled for
People,
life.
come on. TV license? No way. No way. We don't have it in Brazil. In Brazil. Think about that. No way. I can imagine that in Brazil, but
Outrageous.
in England, no way. I'm so sad because of that. No way.
You outraged. It's a disgrace. Oh my goodness. And how is
Okay.
life in Canada? Tell us.
Wow.
Are you still loving it?
Yes, a lot. Especially right now, we are in summer. Okay, summer in Canada just 2 days.
Yeah, it's like in England.
Especially in Vancouver, is because Vancouver has so many mountains around. So we have this natural issue here because it rain a lot here every single day. But just because it's impossible to the clouds go out for the city because the mountains. But at the same time, it's so beautiful. Every single day I find a new thing for to do here. I find new people. So the people here is wow, is the best thing that exists in Canada. So I can just try to say one word given a mistake, the people, I can help you. Yeah, sure. And the people help me. It's not the same way in the USA. So, okay, have boring people here too, especially Brazilians have a lot boring here. But the Asian people, the Nigerian people, it's wow, it's the best people here. So now in the summer, I think is other city. I landed here in I don't remember November. I think the last year. Yeah, November 2nd in the winter. So it's so hard because you didn't see any person walking around the streets. It's impossible to see people laugh and smile or get a drink or start to talk with anybody because the people are very sad. But right now, the people always like, "Hey, how are you?" What?
The same in London, isn't it? And do you remember the park in the city that when I used to work there, we used to go have lunch at the park? I forgot the name.
But
Finsbury.
I hate the barbecue from here. The barbecue is not good, okay? The Brazilian barbecue is better. Our food is better than here. That's okay.
Dry.
It's because I don't like Asian
Oh,
food.
dry.
And here in Vancouver, I have the Asian community is so huge. So I have so many restaurants here. So if you try, for example, walk around downtown now, you can see 90 Asian restaurants and one Mexican restaurant like that. So here is a city for Asian people. So I like that because I love Asian people. Asian people is very smart. I love to talk with smart people. But sometimes I hate the food. I don't like sushi. These things, it's so bad. Wow. But okay.
Okay. I love sushi. I'll be happy there.
The
Julie,
food's
We're
not good
having
here.
sushi on Sunday.
Oh, you next to your house then, the best sushi. Remember that road that we lived, the road that we will walk down to go to the station? They have a
Yeah.
Japanese restaurant in the left.
Hashi.
when you're
Hashi
going
was
down.
the Japanese restaurant.
Was it
Yeah.
Hashi? I forgot the name. That has the best sushi in the area.
Yeah.
So good.
and Juliana is so quiet. She's also
Yeah.
in Canada, Marcus. I don't know. I guess she's going
Yeah,
to Vancouver as well.
Juliana is a developer, right?
Yeah, she is. I mean, that's her background. Julie, where are you, girl?
Yeah, I remember this name. I'm bad with names. I am good with space. So I don't know if it's the same Juliana. But the Juliana, I
she's
remember
hiding.
I was studying developer stuff. I remember that. But I don't
Yeah,
know.
she got a degree in computer science.
Wow, it's better than me.
Oh,
Oh, she's on the bus.
She's on the bus. Okay,
In
Julie.
the bus in Brazil with your cell phone. Okay, you're the
Yeah, be
strong person.
careful.
Brave.
Yeah.
Never. I shared this feeling with some friends, Malakias and Mohammed. Like, if I go back to Brazil today, right now, in my first few steps, I will lose everything. Because here,
You relaxed.
for example, I don't have any idea where my cell phone is now. Sometimes the people just wake up here, go to the bathroom, and stay with Apple computers, cell phones here. Somebody say, "Hey, you can look for me." Okay. The people here is like that.
London is
I
not
like
like that, isn't
this
it?
way now. For me, it's impossible to back to Brazil now.
Just don't. You live in
And the
the
London, sorry, I don't feel go to the London.
No, London is not like that. You
Th-
can't
this-
just go to the bathroom
no,
and leave your
this rule about the
laptop
TV,
on the
sorry.
table.
No, I'm so sad.
You still stumbled by the TV license.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
like
so
easy for
proud
like
of
easy
you.
brought it up. Now it's
Yeah, no,
now
you
the
know,
dream.
Oh.
that's funny. I've never seen that. Never ever in any place.
I used to be afraid of the TV police.
I miss you all a lot. I remember our
Me too, man.
days
And I
on
was
the last year
complaining.
before I moved to here.
I was
So always
complaining
when I have a
about it.
chance to share my feeling about how I improved my English, how I learned English so fast, I always share your profile. So
You're the best.
thank you. If I am here, it's because of you. So,
I'm
Oh,
really happy and very proud of you to see, man, you are so free.
it's big team, 6 months,
No constraint.
6, 7 months, and maybe
7
8.
months already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
November.
7 months already.
Tanya,
Yeah.
when Marcus came to us, he didn't speak any English.
Wow.
And
I would never ever think that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Really.
zero English for this right now.
No, but look at him.
I know.
And he got a job, he got a job in Canada from Brazil. He did all the
Wow.
process and they sponsor him. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Beautiful journey.
After 8 months studying together. Before that, after 4 months of studying with you, I got the job to San Francisco. Remember that
Yeah.
job? Yeah.
You didn't like
for
it,
my-
did you? I remember
after-
you commented like, I don't like Americans. I'm like, me
Nah,
neither.
I hate Americans. Yeah, always when I have a chance to talk better things about Americans, I do
They
that.
don't do that. Bia is going to California. She's going to study there.
Canadians love when I say that. No, I hate the American Canadians. Yeah, we are better. We are polite people.
Yeah, Canada is very neutral country. Huh? You hear nothing about them. I mean,
Yeah. Especially here. If you compare with São Paulo, for example, or New York, it's the same way. Have more international people than Canadians here. So to find a Canadian person here, we need to travel to other cities, to small towns, like that. So it's possible to find Canadian people. But here in Vancouver, I never saw one Canadian. Okay, I work with Canadians, but I don't work together with these Canadians because are my teammates. I don't like to drink with teammates sometimes because for me, like I'm working at, I don't like that. So, but my friends aren't Canadians. So, is it Asian people, Mexican people? Is that?
Oh, that's such a blessing, I think. It's
Yeah.
the best thing about London, isn't it? Son? Like you meet
No.
the whole world.
no,
He is better than London.
Marcus is not
When,
convinced.
when the queen,
I
when
can
the queen
imagine
die,
it's way
we
more
are better.
beautiful. Yeah.
We are waiting to the queen die. So that's okay.
Don't you like Queen?
Don't say that like
I
man.
love the queen.
Because you needed to pay semi face to the queen. The people from here, the people from Australia don't like that.
Yeah. Do you know Barbados is jumping out of the Commonwealth just because
Yeah.
they was it Barbados and what else? There's another country as well. Can't remember which one in the Caribbean.
I know the Barbados because of Rihanna, and she's the hero.
I just know Barbados being Rihanna.
Yeah.
If Rihanna never said that, I never will remember. I'm not good with geography.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well,
And I'm conscious about the time because I know you have to go.
Oh, I'm gonna have to say goodbye. It's been lovely to meet everybody. Beatrice, Juliana, Marcus, it's so good to meet you. You're so sold Canada. I feel like, man, I got my visa in the wrong country. I should have gone to Canada.
I'm glad you
Yeah,
didn't.
it was just this
No
contract.
TV license and mountains.
I tried. Just this contract tried to move, and I got this job. And it is that.
I will start investigating. No, but so good to meet
Before
everyone.
the 40s.
Lovely to meet you. Ali, lovely to chat to you again. We'll talk
Oh.
more, and hopefully I'll see everybody one day in the future.
Thank you, hon.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet everyone.
thank you, Tanya. Thank you. Bye, people. Nice to see you, Marcos. Proud of you, man. Don't be a stranger.
She had to go like 8 o'clock.
Sugar,
Yeah, so we can say
4 p.m. here.